I want to start today's deep dive by asking you to do something just a little bit unusual.
Oh, setting the tone early.
Yeah, right. So wherever you are right now, whether you're commuting or walking the dog or maybe just sitting at your desk, I want you to take a second and literally look down at your belly button.
And if that's a bit awkward given your current surroundings, just place your hand flat against your chest and feel your heartbeat.
Yeah, just for a couple of seconds.
It forces you to get out of your head, back into your physical body.
Exactly.
Just tuning into that rhythm you usually completely ignore.
And the reason I'm asking you to do this is because we are exploring a truly fascinating premise today. We're looking at a question that bridges two entirely different worlds.
Two worlds that people usually insist on keeping totally separate.
Right. The question is this: what if ancient spiritual philosophy and cutting-edge 2025 biological science are actually telling the exact same story about where we come from?
Which is wild, because we usually put those things in completely separate boxes. You have the poetic and spiritual stuff in one corner and the clinical microscopic data in the other. But looking at them side by side reveals some really startling overlaps.
And we have an incredible stack of source material for this deep dive. We're looking at the profound, really poetic reflections of painter Pankaj Kumar Diamond.
Beautiful work.
It is. And we are layering his insights directly alongside modern scientific and medical research. The mission today is to extract those massive moments where mythology, geometry, and biology just collide.
Because when you see where they intersect, it fundamentally changes how you understand your connection to your mother, the universe, and, well, time itself.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with one of the most ancient metaphors we have, the lotus and the lifeline.
Right, so let's trace it back to that belly button you just looked at.
The belly button, yeah.
In Hindu mythology, there is this foundational image of Lord Vishnu, the preserver of the universe.
And the ancient texts describe this magnificent lotus flower sprouting directly from Vishnu's navel. Right.
Exactly. And upon this lotus sits Brahma, the creator. So the navel isn't just a physical center here.
It's the source.
It is the absolute source of creation. It's the origin point from which the entire universe blooms.
Which, sounds like a beautiful, purely metaphorical image. But then I was reading through our medical sources for this deep dive, and nature basically plagiarized this exact mythological image for human biology.
It is uncanny how literal it is. I mean, think about the physical reality of human gestation.
Right.
The mother's placenta is essentially the biological lotus.
It's crazy when you think about it. It's an entirely new organ the body built from scratch just to sustain creation.
Yeah, and stemming directly from that placental lotus is the umbilical cord, which grows the child. The placenta is quite literally the source of life in the womb, mimicking that ancient imagery flawlessly.
But I always thought of the umbilical cord as just a basic biological tube, just a simple string holding two things together.
Most people do.
But looking at the anatomy, it's a ridiculous piece of engineering.
Oh, it's far from a simple tube. It is a highly pressurized, 3-lane biological highway.
3 lanes?
Yeah, you have 2 arteries and 1 vein coiled together. And because the fetus is moving around, nature wraps this whole highway in something called Wharton's jelly.
Wharton's jelly, which is essentially biological bubble wrap, right?
Basically, yeah. It completely stops the baby from accidentally pinching off its own lifeline while it's moving.
So what's actually traveling on this highway?
Everything required to build a human. It's continuously pumping a massive payload: oxygen, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, and antibodies.
Just a constant stream.
A constant stream delivering the fundamental building blocks of life straight from the mother's biological lotus into the child.
Which brings us back to the belly button. Birth requires physical separation. That cord has to be cut so the child can survive independently.
Right, the physical link is severed.
But the navel remains. It's our body's very first scar, stamped right in the center of us. It's a permanent physical reminder that we did not just spontaneously appear out of nowhere.
That physical scar is the lingering evidence of how we started. But as you dig into the obstetrics and neurobiology, you start to realize the physical cut is an illusion. Meaning the separation is only skin deep.
Because the emotional and biological connections survive the scissors. It's an invisible cord.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the hormonal side of this, because the mother's emotional state isn't just passing through her mind, it's literally building the child's nervous system.
Think about what happens when a mother is happy or relaxed. her body produces endorphins and oxytocin.
The hormones responsible for happiness and bonding.
Exactly. Those molecules travel straight through that placental highway, and when they hit the fetal bloodstream, they actively stabilize the baby's developing heart rate.
So the joy translates into physical structural health.
It literally builds a calmer baseline for the nervous system.
But let's be real, life isn't just joy and relaxation.
Sadly, no.
What happens when the mother is stuck in traffic, or dealing with a stressful job, or navigating a crisis? Does the baby just absorb all that daily anxiety?
That is where the biology gets incredibly protective. The body has a built-in defense system.
I love this part.
There is a specific enzyme called 11-beta-HSD2.
I remember reading about this in the notes. It acts like a biological bouncer.
A very overworked bouncer, yes.
Right.
When a mother experiences stress, her adrenal glands pump out cortisol, the primary stress hormone. That cortisol rushes toward the placenta, trying to cross over to the baby.
The bouncer is at the door.
Exactly. This enzyme, 11-beta-HSD2, stands right at the placental barrier. It intercepts the active cortisol and converts it into cortisone, which is inactive.
It essentially disarms the stress hormone before it can reach the fetus.
It takes the weapon away, yeah.
Our biology actively tries to shield the unborn child from the outside world's chaos. That is wild. But surely that bouncer has a breaking point, right?
It does, and that limitation really highlights the vulnerability of this invisible cord. If you look at the research from developmental psychobiologists,
Like the extensive studies by Davis, Anderson, and Howland.
right, the ones between 2010 and 2016, they found that chronic severe stress changes the equation. If the mother's stress is prolonged and intense, the enzyme simply gets overwhelmed.
Just can't keep up.
It can't convert the cortisol fast enough.
So the active stress hormone breaks through the barrier. What does that actually do to the developing baby?
The research shows it leaves a lasting blueprint on the child's own stress response system. The baby's brain adapts to expect a high-stress environment.
Wow.
Later in life, this can manifest as higher cortisol reactivity in the child.
So they are primed for stress.
Exactly. They are finding increased risks for anxiety, difficulty with emotional regulation, and even attention issues. The mother's environment and emotional state deeply inform the child's neurological baseline.
The invisible cord is hormonal, clearly.
Yeah.
But it's also auditory. I want to talk about the heartbeat connection because this explains so much about basic human behavior.
The auditory world of the womb is fascinating. It's entirely dominated by the mother's heartbeat.
Right, because they can hear it.
The fetus develops the ability to hear at around 20 to 24 weeks. From that moment until birth, the constant rhythmic drum of the mother's heart is the backdrop of their existence.
It is the defining sound of safety and nourishment.
It's all they know.
Which is why holding a screaming, distressed newborn flat against an adult's chest works like magic.
They hear that familiar rhythm and their breathing instantly stabilizes.
They are basically receiving an auditory signal that says, you are safe. The cord is still there.
It is purely auditory muscle memory. They are returning to the acoustic environment of their origin.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the hormones and the heartbeat sound too abstract, the 2025 cord blood registry studies offer something that sounds straight out of a sci-fi novel.
It really does.
But it's hard biological fact. We need to talk about fetal maternal microchimerism.
What's fascinating here is that microchimerism provides literal, physical proof that the connection between mother and child never ends.
Not just metaphorically.
Physically, during pregnancy, fetal stem cells actually migrate out of the womb.
They leave the lotus.
They leave the lotus, they travel through the placenta, enter the mother's bloodstream, and embed themselves into her organs.
Let me stop you there, because we aren't just talking about a few cells floating around temporarily.
Right.
These cells cross the blood-brain barrier.
They do. Fetal cells have been found lodged in the mother's brain, her heart, her lungs, and her liver.
And that is just wow.
And they don't just visit, they integrate and stay there for the rest of her life.
And they do something else too, right?
Yes. Even more incredibly, these fetal stem cells act like biological paramedics.
Paramedics.
If the mother suffers tissue damage, say, a minor injury to her heart, the fetal cells will actually rush to the site and help repair the mother's tissue.
So if you are a mother listening to this, you literally have pieces of your children living inside your brain and beating inside your heart, actively protecting you.
And it goes both ways. Maternal cells also cross over and embed themselves in the child's organs.
So the mother is in the child too.
Every single one of us is walking around right now carrying cellular fragments of our mothers.
At a microscopic level, you are quite literally a mosaic.
Exactly. The physical cord was cut, but the biological reality is that you are never entirely separate from where you came from.
That completely shatters the idea of being an isolated individual.
You are a walking collective.
And strangely enough, this deep biological integration maps perfectly onto the geometric and spiritual concepts laid out by Pankaj Kumar Deeman. Let's look at his philosophy regarding geometry and breath.
Deeman brings a brilliant mathematical lens to this idea of connection. He asks us to strip everything down to a single point in geometry.
Just one dot on a page.
Right. Conceptually, a single point is incomplete. It doesn't go anywhere. It has no dimension. It is just an isolated coordinate.
To create anything at all, even a simple one-dimensional line, you are forced to introduce a second point.
Exactly.
And Deeman points out that it doesn't matter if that line is 2 inches long or 2 miles long. Its fundamental existence relies entirely on the duality of those 2 points.
Life and existence cannot happen in a vacuum. Isolation creates nothing.
Deeman takes that geometric necessity for duality and applies it directly to the human breath.
Just as a line demands 2 points, human life demands 2 breaths.
The inhale and the exhale.
Precisely. The inhale draws life in, the exhale releases it.
And there's a philosophical layer here too.
He views this through a philosophical lens, the physical breath that oxygenates the blood and sustains the body, paired with the spiritual breath that sustains the soul or consciousness. You can't have one without the other.
He ties this to an incredible piece of Hindu mythology, using the figure of Pawan-Putra, which is another name for Hanuman.
The son of the wind.
Right. Pawan-Putra translates to the son of the wind, or the son of the breath. Deeman breaks down the linguistics here. The word sut means foundation.
Okay.
So this breath, this vital wind moving in and out of us, is the very foundation of the love and life beating within our chests.
The breath is the invisible force, but it requires a physical instrument to express it. The breath fuels the drum of the heart.
The drum of the heart. That's a great image.
Which brings us to a profound perspective on time. We talked about how the mother's heartbeat is the biological drum of life for a fetus.
Yeah, the auditory muscle memory.
But spiritually, Daimon connects our heartbeat to Lord Shiva's Damaru.
The Damaru is that small, hourglass-shaped, two-headed drum you often see in depictions of Shiva.
The spiritual belief is that Shiva beats the Damaru to create the rhythm of the cosmos. As long as that drum continues to beat, the universe continues to expand and exist.
And Daimanand draws a direct parallel here.
He does. He says the rhythm of the cosmos is mirrored identically in the rhythm of your own chest.
So your heartbeat isn't just a muscle contracting, it's your personal Damaru. As long as it beats, your specific universe remains intact.
And that relentless rhythm represents the concept of Mahakal,
Mahakal.
which translates to the master of time or the great time. Your heartbeat is the ultimate timekeeper of your existence.
It drives the cycle.
It hammers out your history, which we call childhood. It sustains your present, which is your youth. And it marches you relentlessly toward your future, which is old age.
The biological pulse is the spiritual drum of time.
Perfectly said.
The layers of meaning here are staggering. The duality of the 2 points making a line. The inhale and the exhale making a breath. The mother and the child making a future. It all points to a singular truth.
Completeness requires 2 distinct halves coming together to create a whole. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this idea of 2 halves creating a complete entity is perfectly visualized in another concept of Shiva, known as Ardhanarishvara.
I found Deeman's notes on this fascinating. Ardhanarishvara is a composite deity.
Right.
It is literally depicted as a figure that is half male and half female, split right down the middle. Lord Shiva on one side and the goddess Parvati on the other.
It is the ultimate visual manifestation of the duality we've been tracking.
To 2 halves.
It represents the absolute union of the male and female elements, the spiritual and the physical, the heavens and the earth.
It is a statement that absolute completeness, the divine itself, cannot exist without the synthesis of these dual forces.
It is the geometric line finally drawn between the 2 points.
Deeman takes this synthesis of earth and sky and applies a linguistic breakdown to the Sanskrit word Bhagavan, which means the divine or God.
Etymology often hides the deepest philosophies. How does he break it down?
He splits the word into syllables. Ha stands for Bhumi, which translates to the earth, representing the grounded female element.
Okay.
And Ga stands for Gagan, which translates to the sky, representing the expansive male element.
I see where this is going.
So when you combine them, Bhagavan isn't just some distant figure in the clouds. The divine is literally defined as the one who holds both the earth and the sky simultaneously.
The divine is the perfect equilibrium of the grounded earth and the limitless sky. And our sources trace this exact philosophical concept into narrative form through the great epic of the Ramayana.
Specifically by looking at the relationship between Ram and Sita.
This is where the ancient storytelling acts out the microscopic biology we explored earlier.
In the epic, Ram is an avatar. He embodies the divine descending from the sky, from the heavens, down to the mortal realm.
While Sita represents the earth itself, the texts refer to her as Bhumija, meaning daughter of the earth.
She wasn't born from a womb in the traditional sense, right?
No. King Janak found her as an infant lying in a plowed furrow in a field. She emerged directly from the soil.
Therefore, the union of Ram and Sita is the literal marriage of Gagan and Bhumi.
Sky and earth.
But the part of Sita's story that really grounds everything we've talked about today is how her journey ends.
Every cycle must eventually close.
Right.
Just as a child is born from the mother, expands into the world through the drumbeat of time, but remains cellularly tethered, Sita was born of the earth.
And at the conclusion of the Ramayana, after all the trials and expansions of her life, she doesn't ascend into the sky.
She calls out to her mother, the earth.
The ground opens up, and she descends back into the soil. She returns to her origin.
It's the ultimate mirroring of the life cycle. You start from a single point of origin, whether that's a fertilized egg or Vishnu's navel or the soil of a plowed field.
You expand into a line of existence.
Propelled by your 2 breaths and the ticking drum of your heart. But eventually, the line reaches its end, the Damaru goes quiet, and you return to the source.
The epic narrative is playing out the exact same reality that is happening at a cellular level in the womb.
You can physically cut the umbilical cord, but the fundamental tether to where you came from can never actually be severed.
Think about the massive scope of the journey we've just taken.
It's a huge span.
You can look through a high-powered electron microscope in a 2025 laboratory, analyzing how the 11-beta-HSD2 enzyme converts cortisol, or tracking the migration of fetal stem cells into a mother's brain tissue.
Or you can read thousands of years old poetic texts about a lotus blooming from Vishnu and Shiva's drum beating the rhythm of time.
And you are looking at the exact same truth.
Science and spirituality are just 2 different dialects trying to articulate the same profound reality. They are both mapping the inextricable connections that weave us into existence.
So, what does this all mean? For me, it means that treating science and spirituality as opposing forces is a mistake.
A huge mistake.
Respecting our biology requires understanding our deep spiritual interconnectedness, and vice versa.
Yeah.
When you realize that a mother's joy physically alters the nervous system of her child, you understand that love isn't just a fleeting emotion. It is a structural, biological building block.
And when you realize the ancient myths were trying to map these invisible cellular tethers, those stories suddenly feel incredibly urgent and modern. This raises an important question. We have talked extensively about how you carry the living cells of your mother inside your brain and your heart, and how your heartbeat is an echo of a cosmic rhythm.
Right?
But if those cells are still alive and functioning within you, what else did they bring with them?
Oh, that's interesting.
Emerging research into epigenetics suggests we might inherit not just the biology, but the biological markers of our ancestors' experiences and traumas.
So their history is literally written into our cells.
If your body is quite literally a living mosaic of the people who came before you, holding their cellular memories, and your life force is just an extension of the cosmic breath, at what point does you actually begin and the rest of the universe end?
I'll leave you to think about that one. Look down at your belly button, feel the drumbeat in your chest, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.